Good morning, everybody. Welcome at the MIUCC, the International Mobile Intelligent and Ubiquitous Computing. My name is Ahmed, the head of Math Department at Misr International University. I am the moderator of the conference today at this session. Today we are pleased to welcome with Professor Ayman Bahaa, the conference chair. Dr. Ayman Bahaa is the Dean of the Faculty of Computer Science at Misr International University in Egypt, MIU. Also, Dr. Ayman was a visiting professor in several local and international universities. Dr. Ayman Bahaa really professional in the fields of cryptography and computer networks and security. Really, he is a great man. Dr. Ayman Bahaa published more than 60 papers in international journals and conference. So we have to start with him. Please, Dr. Ayman.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Welcome all to the first International IEEE Conference on Mobile, Intelligent and Ubiquitous Computing. It's an honor and pleasure to have all the attendees, participants, esteemed professors, colleagues, students, undergraduate and postgraduate. It's an honor and a pleasure for MIU, for the Faculty of Computer Science, for all the panelists and my colleagues in the organizing committee and the program committee of the conference. MIU is hosting this conference virtually this year as part of its ongoing role for supporting scientific research and higher education as part of the higher education and scientific research community of Egypt and the region. Egypt is really focusing on higher education and scientific research. It has been a very long road, started more than 25 years ago when we started the process of improving and enhancing the higher education. Egypt is advancing in all levels and ranks for universities and scientific research. Recently, Egypt jumped maybe 6 places in the rank of scientific research worldwide. Still not what we really are ambitious to, but a step on the way. This year conference actually got a lot of success from the point of view. It's the first conference in a series of conferences that will be held yearly for the upcoming years in a very hot area of research, computer science in general, and the main theme of the conference in ubiquitous, intelligent, mobile computing and related fields. It's the COVID-19 pandemic, more than 1 year that we are not meeting together. We are grounded, locked down, using a lot of online meetings and online systems for teaching, for testing, for delivering the learning outcomes for conferences like this. It was the technology for the rescue, and this is actually the main focus of this conference. We are trying to participate a very little piece of advancement to give back to the world what we are ought to do. So technology really rescued the humanity during the last year. Before going into details about the conference, I would like to thank my colleagues in the Faculty of Computer Science and all the esteemed reviewer committees, scientists, guest speakers, panelists that participated in this conference. Talking numbers, we have received almost 100 manuscripts from all over the world. 25% were outside of Egypt. Most of the papers came from all the universities, all the scientific institutes around Egypt and the region and the world. 60 out of those made to the program. It was a very hard competition. Unfortunately, we cannot host more for the tight schedule. We have 3 parallel sessions, technical sessions, so we were limited to the number of the papers that we could accept. I hope it's going to be very useful 2 days for all of us to benefit from what we are going to listen in the keynote speeches, in the panels and discussions, and of course in the heart of the conference, the technical sessions, that we are going to see what are going on in the field of computer science in general and the tracks that made to the final program of the conference. Finally, I would like to thank our sponsors for this conference. Misr International University for hosting the conference, facilitating all what we need to a successful conference, including this webinar platform that can host up to 10,000 attendees. And of course, I would like to thank the IEEE Egypt section for co-sponsoring, technically co-sponsoring the conference. IEEE Egypt section headed by my dear friend and colleague, Professor Ahmed Hassan. We have been friends for almost 25, 26 years right now. IEEE Egypt section is having a lot of activities, a lot of participations in the scientific research in the field of electronics, electrical, computer engineering, and computer science all over Egypt. Also, I would like to thank the Distinguished Visitors Program, the DVB, and the IEEE Computer Society, led by dear Professor Hisham Fahmy here in Egypt, and my previous students and colleague, Dr. Islam Abdel Halim, for availing 4 of the top keynote speakers for this conference. They will provide us with insights on the most advanced topics around for computer science and computer engineering in the scientific research disciplines right now, and for the upcoming industrial benefits and technology. Thank you again. Hope you 2 days full of scientific insights, ideas, thoughts. I would like to welcome all the participants, authors, industrial partners, engineers, professionals. I hope to come out with lots of ideas, lots of trends, and hopefully an advancement to the discipline and to the world. Thank you very much. Enjoy the 2 days. Next year, inshallah, we will be meeting face-to-face here in Cairo, not virtually. Of course, the world will not be the same anymore, but inshallah, the pandemic will be over and we will look back to these days. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to my opening speech. I hope for the best. We are honored and pleasured to have you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Dr. Emad, please.
Thank you, Dr. Ayman. I enjoy that. And I would like to welcome and to introduce Professor Ahmed Emad, the Vice President of Misr International University for Students Affairs. Welcome, Professor Ahmed, and you can make the mic. You can open the mic. Professor Ahmed, you have the word. Is there any problem with Professor Ahmed?
Doctor, it's not me, the professor. I'm just a student.
Okay.
So I think Dr. Ahmed, Dr. Islam can address us about the DVB program, the Computer Society, IEEE Computer Society DV program until Professor Ahmed joins.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ayman. I would like to introduce our colleague, Dr. Islam Tharwat. Dr. Islam Tharwat is the Assistant Professor at the Faculty of Computer Science, Misr International University. Dr. Islam is the Chair Awareness Subcommittee in IEEE Computer Science DVB program. Welcome, Dr. Islam.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you for this great presentation. I'd like to extend my thanks to Professor Ayman Bahaa. It's really, I have many words to say to him, but I don't have enough time for that. He knows that he taught me a lot of things. He and also Prof. Hisham Fahmy, my main supervisor during my study in the Faculty of Engineering in Shams University during my master and PhD thesis. I'm really happy today to be here with you, and let me share some slides with you to introduce the DVB program. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to be here today, and on behalf of the DVB, I would like to welcome you at the International Mobile Intelligent and Ubiquitous Computing Conference, MIUCC, for its first round, and we are thrilled to continue this tradition for the coming years. Thank you all for your time to join us for this great event. MIUCC is a real success story that explains the collaborative effort between Masr International University, IEEE Egypt section, and the IEEE Computer Society Distinguished Visitor Program, the DVB, which I'm here today to represent, in addition to my responsibility as a general organization committee for the MIUCC. First of all, also, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Professor Hassan Fahmy and Professor George Brolier for allowing me to participate in such wonderful international group environment and get such marvelous experience. My aim today is to introduce the DVB and how we can contribute to improve the IEEE geographical activities worldwide. The main objective of the DVB is to distinguish any IEEE event by inviting the most accomplished academic and technology leaders. The IEEE Computer Society DVB was initiated in 1971 by Dr. Stephen Yao. It's a popular offering of top quality speakers serving IEEE Computer Society professional and student chapters. The DVB owes its success to the many volunteers worldwide, also volunteers and staff members of the Computer Society who generously contribute their time, effort, and talent. Each year, you will find new distinguished visitors, speakers, and new topics to help maintain renewed, sorry again, it's really bad practice. I'm really sorry for that, but it seems that I'm working in a very tight place, so please forgive me. Each year, as I told you, that you will find new topics, new DVs. For the time being, and as the health and safety of our members is one of the utmost importance, and due to COVID-19 outbreak, for this year, the DVB is being retooled to continue virtually. For sure, we hope that we can come back again on ground as soon as possible. You can find more information about the DVB if you access the IEEE Computer Society website and search for the DVB program, you will find the link available for you. You can search for IEEE Computer Society DVB and you will find it on Google. Just Google it and you'll find it in an easy way. The DVB consists of the DVB chair, DVB committee, and computer society staff to facilitate implementation of the program. George Proflair is currently serving as the chair of the DVB. I like this man. I have met him several times, and I really think that he's a great man. Thank you, Professor Proflair. In general, the policies of the DVB can be summarized as follows. A chapter should consider speakers from the current online catalog only. Any chapter would like to utilize the service provided by the DVB have to search for the online catalog. The chapter may arrange, sorry? No, it's okay, it's okay. The policies of the DVB, as I told you, any chapter worldwide, it's not about the DVB service, it's not dedicated for one region, it's a worldwide service. A chapter, any chapter around the world. I believe that you know the IEEE hierarchy, which is it's composed of some regions, and the regions is the logical partitioning according to the society or the professionality. While we have another partitioning which based on the region will be divided into sections. Also, the chapters is included in the section and belongs to some specialists. So any chapter should consider speakers, should search in the online catalog. You can find the online catalog of the DVB on the website. A chapter may arrange up to 3 DVB visits per calendar year. Also, approval must be obtained in advance. You can find the detailed policies and procedures for sure in the IEEE Computer Society website. It's worth mentioning that we are honored that Professor Hassan Fahmy from Ain Shams University is a member of the DVB committee. He's responsible to one of the most important roles in the DVB, which is the selection of the DVB. Prof. Hassan Fahmy, the only, of course, with 9 members in his committee, but he is the responsible man for selecting the DVBs worldwide. Nomination for new speakers are formally requested by the chair in the spring of each year, and for sure, for the people who know Prof. Fahmy, will understand this very easily. There is speakers should be recognized authority, and there's a very disciplined rules on how to select them according to the gold standard with highly professional curriculum. Several criteria are proposed or used by the DVB committee, which can be summarized according to the record of public speaking, the articles, technical or the journals, and the book published. The current target of our speaker representation are 67 academia and 33 industry. As you know, the IEEE is not a fully academic organization. It's a hyper organization. It contains 100% industry professional. Also, it can contain 100% academic, and it welcome the hyper persons. This is a small video that explains how the DVB program can work.
The IEEE Computer Society's Distinguished Visitors Program delivers tools for individuals at all stages of their professional careers through visits to chapters, offering opportunities for individual interaction, and to the membership through webinars by respected professionals. We have distinguished visitors who cover machine learning, cybersecurity, robotics, big data, cloud computing, blockchain, and cryptography, among others. Chapters can request a distinguished visitor on computer.org/distinguished-visitors. The Computer Society pays intercity travel, while chapters are responsible for all costs with regard to the hosting of the distinguished visitor, such as lodging, transportation, and food and incidentals in the city of the presentation. The Distinguished Visitors Program is able to pay up to $1,000 for a visit to a chapter, but by working with other nearby chapters to develop a tour, that amount can be increased. So when your chapter is planning its next event, think of the Distinguished Visitors Program.
Of course, for the time being of this year, we don't have on-ground events, so we fully retool to online events. The online events is characterized that it has no cost. There is no cost. By the way, MIUCC costs £0. It's a zero-cost conference. All the tools, all the facilities we use is for free. Thank you for Microsoft that provide us with the submission system. The website is fully implemented by Egyptian hands, and thank you for the IT department here for, of course, in the university. They provide us with full support. Thank you for the marketing team. Thank you for all the efforts provided by the all staff in MIU.
The IEEE.
Sorry. Okay. Now it's my role here to play what's supposed to do. It was a great honor for me to be appointed on 1st of April as the chair of the Awareness and Customer Advocacy Subcommittee for the DVB. So I'd like to focus on the DVB perspective, the new perspective of the DVB, and how we see our role and responsibility. Our perspective is to see all the IEEE Computer Society members chapters as our customers. I'd like to believe that you are my customer. I prepare the product, the service, the support. I provide you with this customer experience. I get your feedback, your needs, and we fully contribute to make you satisfied with the service we provide. Also, this concept of our customer can be extended to include all members of the computing community all over the world. We intend to extend our service not only to be limited for the IEEE Computer Society members. We now are currently working with the ACM chapters. We can provide DVs to the ACM chapters, and hopefully we can extend this coverage to include all the computing events around the world. Our vision is to strive to deliver exceptional visit experience to our customer with every single interaction, creating lifelong customer that not only stay with the DV, but also promote to his colleague. While our mission is through establishing a culture that supports making distinguished event by inviting the world's most respected and accomplished speakers so they can provide exceptional and tailored visits to our customers. We focus on the core values. We have 6 core values that maintain our strive. Our strive word is a combination of our 6 core values. So we strive to provide service excellence, top quality, relationships, innovation, virtue, and experience. Sorry for taking more time than I expect, but I'd like to explain this is the last slide. This, how can you get benefit from the DVB, and what's the added value of the DVB? The slide showed what's the added value and how it can an optimal solution for some major problems while organizing an event. I believe, and this belief because I'm one of those persons who were responsible to organize an event, and I really faced a lot of problems. These problems, my major problems can be summarized as three main problems. The first one, that you have to conduct so many activities at different levels. In our event, we have many different levels. We have the young students, we have the senior students, we have the TAs, we have the staff, we have also some students that outside the major, so national, international, so different levels of activities. You have to provide different level of activities to meet all these requirements, to meet all these needs, to attract them. So the DVB can provide a tailored activity, a tailored lecture. It's not just a lecture, it's not a speaker. The DVB should tailor his talk to meet your requirements. You tell me what the level of your audience, and it's our responsibility to provide you a tailored lecture that meet their mind, their educational level. We can support you in that to maintain this should a lot of heterogeneity in terms of requirements, needs, and interests. So the way the DVB provide tailored lectures for any audience educational levels. This is the first one. I believe that the DVB can support it in your next event. On the other side, I think there are many members disconnected each year from the society. I'm really shocked when I found some students in the computer science or the computer engineering, and they really don't know about the IEEE Computer Society. It's a major issue here. Plus, we have membership leak. Some students, some members of the IEEE are leaking each year. Why? Because they are not aware about what the benefit they can. So, providing gold standard speakers can attract more and more audience for your event. Here we have this exercise, we have this experience. MIUCC in its first round, in its first hour, I see that we have more than 250 audience worldwide. Why? I believe this is the DVB. The last one is the awareness gap of the membership benefits and opportunities of the IEEE Computer Society. Here we talk about the visit. Maybe we have today an online visit. Hopefully we can arrange a real visit. When the DVB comes to you, he can be a good representation and interaction on the ground with your audience. He can deliver them direct representation, so it can deliver all the values, services, opportunities that the IEEE Computer Society can provide. While combining all these solutions, I believe this increase the result will increase the number of society members, increase the number of activities, and enrich the society. I believe MIUCC is one of the most successful stories in the history of the DVB. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I learned something, finally, I would like to say. You have to know the rules. You have to follow the rules, but sometimes you need to break the rules. فاسمحوا لي أتوجه إلى كل السادة الحضور باللغة العربية عشان في رسالة حابب ان انا اوصلها لكل الحاضرين. الحقيقه MIUCC هو قصه نجاح. قصه نجاح هدفها ان احنا بنقول ان مصر تستطيع. مصر تستطيع تنظيم احداث على اعلى مستوى. مصر فيها كفاءات حقيقي قويه جدا. مصر عندها من الامكانيات. كان في بعض الناس بيقولوا لي انت بتعمل وانت، الحقيقه ان مصر هنا هي جامعه مصر الدوليه. وهي اسم على مسوى، هي جامعة مصر. جامعة مصر الدولية هي جامعة عريقة، تاريخها كبير. عميد كلية الحاسبات والمعلومات أستاذي طبعا الدكتور أيمن بهاء. الحقيقة إن أنا كل الموقف إن أنا استغليت الاسمين دول، استغليت العراقة. استغليت ان عندنا ارض خصبه، ارض عندها تاريخ طويل، كل اللي محتاجينه ان احنا نشتغل عليه، كل اللي محتاجينه ان احنا نخلص عليه. كان لما في اي موقف بكلم اي حد بقول له جامعه مصر الدوليه، الاقي كل الابواب اتفتحت. بكلم اي حد اقول له دكتور ايمن بهاء رئيس المؤتمر، الاقي كل الابواب اتفتحت. الحقيقه ان هم ما كانوش محتاجين يساعدوني على الارض، لان هم ساعدوني بالسنوات الطويله اللي اجتهدوا فيها، لان انا مجرد ان انا بستغل هذا الاسم. الحقيقه انا بتوجه للشكر لجامعه مصر الدوليه، بتوجه بالشكر لاستاذ دكتور ايمن بهاء، بتوجه بالشكر لكل الساده العاملين في الكليه اللي انا شرفت بالعمل معاهم، بتوجه بالشكر لمجموعه العمل كامله. بحيي دكتور اشرف، بحيي الدكتور ايمن نبيل، بحيي كل الساده الزملاء اللي بذلوا مجهود، بحيي الساده المعيدين اللي اشتغلوا معانا بكل اخلاص وتفاني. احيانا كنا يعني بنشد عليهم شويه، بس الحقيقه ان احنا يعني انا شخصيا سعيد جدا جدا بالعمل معاهم، واتمنى ان احنا نكرر هذا الحلم وهذه التجربه عشان تبقى رساله لكل الشباب اللي موجودين معانا النهارده. يا اولاد تقدروا ان انتوا تحققوا حلمكم، وتقدروا ان انتوا توصلوا. كل اللي مطلوب منكم ان انتوا تعملوا بجد، وفي النهايه افتكروا ان الله لا يضيع اجر من احسن عملا. شكرا جزيلا. Thank you Dr. Ahmed, and sorry for my last Arabic speech.
Thank you very much, my dear friend Dr. Islam, for your word. Really, I'm so happy to introduce and welcome Dr. Ahmed Emad, the Vice President of Masr International University for Students Affairs. Welcome, Dr. Ahmed, and you can take the mic.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear esteemed professor, doctors and fellows, Mr. International University is honored to welcome you all to the first IEEE International Mobile, Intelligent and Ubiquitous Computing Conference, MIUCC 2021. This international forum gathers academia, industry, and society for a platform to exchange ideas and discuss the latest development in the field of computer science worldwide. MIU has always carried an important role to foster higher education and scientific research for the entire region. This event aligns with the university strategy as a catalyst for scientific research and collaboration with the industry. Computer science and interdisciplinary research are on the top of our agenda, university research agenda, and is a major part of our vision and strategy for MIU 2030 as a fourth generation smart university. I am sure the upcoming 2 days will be full of excellent talks, advanced technical sessions, and important discussion panels, although very busy and dense, but very useful and beneficial. During a hard time like COVID-19 pandemic facing the world, technology came to rescue, and day after day, humanity rely more and more on it. I am pretty confident that this conference will participate in the development of science and technology that humanity really needs. Thank you for your valuable participation and welcome to MIUCC 2021. Hope to welcome you face to face next year in Cairo. My best wishes for a successful event. Shukran.
Thank you very much, Professor Ahmed Ahmed, our acting president for Masr International University. Thank you for the continuous support and help from the university top management, board of trustees, and the university council for all our activities in the Faculty of Computer Science. I would like now to introduce my dear colleague and friend, Professor Hisham Farouk Ali, the Deputy Minister of Higher Education for Digital Transformation. He has a very big and challenging task for the digital transformation of the higher education system in Egypt. I hope we can all participate with him, help him for this tremendous task. Thank you for addressing the conference. Please, Professor Hisham, go on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ayman. It's my honor to be with you today and for kind invitations to attend this challenging conference in these very critical days of suffering from the pandemic. But while suffering from the pandemic, we didn't forget the activities of scientific research. It's very successful. I hope for you a very successful event, inshallah. In Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, I will just in 2 minutes give you just a high-level look about what we are doing. We are managing 3 tracks under Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research: track for educational entities, authorities, track for hospitals, educational university hospitals, and the 3rd track for scientific institutes. Ministry, our ministry managing or looking for managing more than 70 universities working in Egypt in different categories: public, private, national, technological universities, and more than 200 institutes, technological institutes. For the hospitals, we have more than 130 university hospitals, and for scientific institutes and authorities, we have 11 authorities. In the digital transformations, we have a short and aggressive plan to finish a very aggressive plan for the universities, hospitals, and scientific research regarding the infrastructure enhancement, connectivity, regarding the systems for managing, controlling, and the daily business for the universities like SIS, LMS, ARP, different application, how to convert the university to smart university. And I have the honor to say that MIU was the first university managing such plan to be as a model for smart universities. And we have another huge mega project for electronic exams for all universities, public governmental universities, managing more than 3 million, around 3 million students in the undergraduate faculties. So we are working hard these days, of course, with the cooperation with my friend, my colleague, Dr. Ayman Bahaa, consulting him on daily basis, many times per day. And I am very impressed to know more and more about the topics will be discussed in this conference, and hope for all of you very hopeful, fruitful conference and useful information will gain in this discussion through these 2 days. Thank you, Dr. Ayman. Thank you for all.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the participation on the move. I noticed you are in your car moving. I know the responsibilities. Thank you very much. It is a very interesting period of time in the higher education. The universities in Egypt. Our Minister, Professor Khaled Abdel Ghaffar, is leading a very important project under the directions of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, and we hope that we are fit to what is expected. Egypt wants a lot, and I hope God help us to do what really Egypt deserves as the first civilization, and having all those young and ambitious scientists and students. Thank you again, Professor Hisham. Thank you for the participation and the continuous support. Dr. Emad, for closing, please.
Thank you, Dr. Hisham. Thank you, Dr. Ayman. We have a break about 15 minutes, and then we will meet at 11 o'clock for the first session. Thank you, everyone. And
thank you very much. Have a nice day. It's a very condensed and dense day today and tomorrow. So we will start our first keynote speech. It will be very interesting to those especially interested in encryption. It's about an enhancement for the top encryption algorithm used nowadays on the internet and all over the world, the advanced encryption standard. So I think it's going to be a very important keynote speech and lecture. We will welcome discussions and questions and answers at the end of the lecture. Thank you and see you in 15 minutes. Thank you very much. This concludes our opening session. Thank you.
Faculty of Engineering, Department of Electronics and Communications. Faculty of Elster and Mass Communication, Department of Mass Communication. Faculty of Oral and Dental Medicine. Faculty of Pharmacy. At MIU Library, you'll find a wealth of quality resources and facilities provided to support you in your learning experience and research projects, or simply to benefit from the quiet atmosphere to study. From festivals, social activities, to events and alumni gatherings, our ultimate goal is to give students a lifetime experience and positive atmosphere, featuring ravishing live music by the most popular superstars and exceptional fire show performers. At MIU, we always encourage students to stay active and healthy through offering them recreational facilities and sport fields on campus. One of MIU's core values is to always give back to the community and contribute to the health and welfare of the people in need. We always encourage our students to become active role models. As the university ambassadors in charity work and CSR initiatives, they give back to the Egyptian society and inspire others. MIU also develops its students' skills and competencies to help them in road mapping their way to the top after graduation and become world leaders and pioneers. For the past 20 years, the number of MIU graduates has reached up to 11,500 qualified individuals.
الميزة في MIU ودي حاجة أنا بشهد بيها برضو لأنه أنا قابلت ناس بعد كده متخرجة من إعلام من كذا جامعة هم يعني ما اهتموش قوي بفكرة إنه إحنا ندرس كل حاجة من كل الجوانب. كان ممكن جدا يخلونا ندرس فاينل كات بس من غير بريمير، بس لا، أنت درست البرنامجين وعرفت ده بيستخدم ازاي، لأن أنت هتتزنق في يوم ممكن لو ده ما عرفتش تشتغل عليه هتشتغل على حاجة تانية.
كانت experience لذيذة وكنت بقابل الناس that have the same vision زي ان هم they're cool and they're fun وعايزين يعملوا حاجة في حياتهم other than ان هم بس يتعلموا، فازاي ممكن يبقى الموضوع entertaining وفي نفس الوقت يبقى بيتعلموا منها حاجة.
يعني مثلا أنا كمراسلة كنت متعودة أيام الجامعة إن أنا اللي بصور بنفسي، أنا اللي بعد، أنا مديرة الإنتاج، أنا فني الصوت، أنا المراسلة بانترفيو الناس. لكن أما نزلت CBC لقيت ان الحقيقه ان انا دوري بس مقتصر على اني بانترفيو الناس.
MIU's international office provides a variety of student exchange and study abroad programs, joint degree programs, language summer courses, and specialized workshops. MIU provides local and international students with the unique opportunity to exchange knowledge, language, and culture. Students can spend a semester or two in any of its partner universities around the world. They can also attend international specialized workshops to expand their horizons.
At first, I wasn't really sociable, but after the student activities they planned for us, like all students, they planned for us an orientation for 3 days, and we started roaming the island. We got closer to other friends, getting to know other cultures, especially international students. Professors embraced our potentials and they had faith in us.
Meeting a lot of people, different education system all over the world, especially that Canada was mainly has a lot of international students, so this was a life experience more than an education.
What I really like about MIU is the teachers. They're so experienced, and you know, the relation between the teachers, between the professors and the students, it is just full of love, and they are teaching in such a nice way. And you know, in the short while I was here at the MIU, I really learned so much. It was really an amazing experience I had here.
I'm really pleased with MIU because I just constantly feel comfortable. You know, the professors are so kind and friendly, and we really have a close relationship, which is really different to Germany because there it's more distance, and I do not feel that comfortable. So I just love this place, and also the atmosphere. Just look at this campus. MIU has such a beautiful campus, and I'm really happy with everything. So, alhamdulillah.
Over 2 decades, MIU has welcomed over 361 international students and 299 visiting professors from all over the world. Not to mention that more than 1,654 MIU students have joined many international study abroad programs, specialized workshops, and language summer courses.
This is my 4th time here at MIU, and every year I've been more and more impressed in what is being done here. As I mentioned before, the quality of the students seems to be improving every year. Their interactivity in the classroom has been wonderful, especially for those that are willing to interact.
I think MIU is making a great contribution to Egypt in educating students with open minds, with the ability to think critically, to write, to read, and to have so much confidence in themselves. As well, there are Egyptian students, graduates of MIU, who go to other countries to work for a few years or even longer, and they bring to other countries all the wonderful heritage and history that Egyptian students and MIU graduates have from this culture.
I have always felt that my visit to MIU is wonderful because I see into the Department of Pharmacy and the clinical pharmacy development. I have enjoyed the hospitality. The students and the TAs and the faculty have always been so generous of their time.
Mr. International University was founded in 1996 as a private education institution. It aspires to deliver academic excellence and a lifetime experience to its students. MIU campus is famous for its picturesque landscape, where students can enjoy the great atmosphere to study and engage in the university's active social scene. After more than 20 years, MIU has built its legacy and acquired a prominent reputation among the top private universities in Egypt through accommodating over 8,000 local and international students in different majors every year. MIU incorporates global teaching methods through hosting highly qualified local and international professors with strong academic backgrounds. They are always ready to share their knowledge and experience with the students. MIU offers you 14 majors and 6 faculties to choose from. Faculty of Elster and Mass Communication, Department of Elster. Faculty of Business Administration and International Trade. Faculty of Computer Science. Faculty of Engineering, Department of Architecture. Faculty of Engineering, Department of Electronics and Communications. Faculty of Elster and Mass Communication, Department of Mass Communication. Faculty of Oral and Dental Medicine. Faculty of Pharmacy. At MIU Library, you'll find a wealth of quality resources and facilities provided to support you in your learning experience and research projects, or simply to benefit from the quiet atmosphere to study. From festivals, social activities, to events and alumni gatherings, our ultimate goal is to give students a lifetime experience and positive atmosphere, featuring ravishing live music by the most popular superstars and exceptional fire show performers. At MIU, we always encourage students to stay active and healthy through offering them recreational facilities and sport fields on campus. One of MIU's core values is to always give back to the community and contribute to the health and welfare of the people in need. We always encourage our students to become active role models. As the university ambassadors in charity work and CSR initiatives, they give back to the Egyptian society and inspire others. MIU also develops its student skills and competencies to help them in road mapping their way to the top after graduation and become world leaders and pioneers. For the past 20 years, the number of MIU graduates has reached up to 11,500 qualified individuals.
الميزة في MIU ودي حاجة أنا بشهد بيها برضو، لأنه أنا قابلت ناس بعد كده متخرجة من إعلام من كذا جامعة، هم يعني ما اهتموش قوي بفكرة إنه إحنا ندرس كل حاجة من كل الجوانب. كان ممكن جدا يخلونا ندرس فاينل كات بس من غير بريمير، بس لا، أنت درست البرنامجين وعرفت ده بيستخدم ازاي، لان انت هتتزنق في يوم ممكن لو ده ما عرفتش تشتغل عليه هتشتغل على حاجه ثانيه.
كانت اكسبيرينس لذيذه، وكنت بقابل الناس that have the same vision زي اللي هم they're cool and they're fun وعايزين يعملوا حاجه في حياتهم، other than ان هم بس يتعلموا، فازاي ممكن يبقى الموضوع entertaining وفي نفس الوقت يبقى بيتعلموا منها حاجه.
يعني مثلا انا كمراسله كنت متعودة أيام الجامعة إن أنا اللي بصور بنفسي، أنا اللي بعد، أنا مديرة الإنتاج، أنا فني الصوت، أنا المراسلة بانترفيو الناس. لكن أما نزلت CBC لقيت إن الحقيقة إن أنا دوري بس مقتصر على إني بانترفيو الناس.
MIU's International Office provides a variety of student exchange and study abroad programs, joint degree programs, language summer courses, and specialized workshops. MIU provides local and international students with the unique opportunity to exchange knowledge, language, and culture. Students can spend a semester or two in any of its partner universities around the world. They can also attend international specialized workshops to expand their horizons.
At first, I wasn't really sociable, but after the student activities they planned for us, like all students, they planned for us an orientation for 3 days, and we started roaming the island. We got closer to other friends, getting to know other cultures, especially international students. Professors embraced our potentials and they had faith in us.
Meeting a lot of people, different education system all over the world, especially that Canada was mainly has a lot of international students, so this was a life experience more than an education.
What I really like about MIU is the teachers. They're so experienced, and you know, the relation between the teachers, between the professors and the students, it is just full of love, and they are teaching in such a nice way. And you know, in the short while I was here at the MIU, I really learned so much. It was really an amazing experience I had here.
I'm really pleased with MIU because I just constantly feel comfortable. You know, the professors are so kind and friendly, and we really have a close relationship, which is really different to Germany because it's more distance, and I do not feel that comfortable. So I just love this place, and also the atmosphere. Just look at this campus. MIU has such a beautiful campus, and I'm really happy with everything. So, alhamdulillah.
Over 2 decades, MIU has welcomed over 361 international students and 299 visiting professors from all over the world. Not to mention that more than 1,654 MIU students have joined many international study abroad programs, specialized workshops, and language summer courses.
This is my fourth time here at MIU, and every year I've been more and more impressed in what is being done here. As I mentioned before, the quality of the students seems to be improving every year. Their interactivity in the classroom has been wonderful, especially for those that are willing to interact.
Hello, everybody again. Now we are starting our conference activities with a very interesting keynote speech in the field of cryptography. But before we start, we would like to have maybe a 1 minute or 2 minutes address from Professor Ahmed Hassan Youssef, the chair of the IEEE Egypt section. One of our great sponsors for this conference. So please, Professor Ahmed, I have been a close friend to Professor Ahmed for more than 25 years, more than this. We started the school together in the Faculty of Engineering at Hisham University in 1990, and we worked a lot together in different national and international projects. Please, Professor Ahmed, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ayman, for inviting me to witness the success of your conference. Usually you are the founder and the brain behind several activities in Egypt on the national level and on the regional level as well. And I'm very happy to witness such success in this conference. I'm very happy to see the distinguished visitors and the keynote speakers and their great CVs. I'm very impressed also with the number of participants and also with the existence of a lot of senior students. And last but not least, I'm impressed with the date, the very smart selection of May to be the date of this conference. We have a lot of conferences in Egypt that are sponsored by IEEE Egypt section. Most of them are between October and December. And sometimes we have 2 to 3 conferences on the same dates. But the selection of this date is very important to give the researchers the option to publish in a very high quality venue without being waiting for 6 months or so to publish their ideas and their research. I'm just welcoming everybody and just giving a message that the IEEE Egypt section will be always here to help and sponsor. And also I would like to bring to the attention of the distinguished participants that there is some sponsorship from IEEE to the new students everywhere in Egypt. There is a huge discount, I think 50% discount of the student membership during the pandemic. So it's just, you can start IEEE membership as a student with $13.5. Which is unprecedented during the last year. It was a barrier for our students, and the section used to sponsor this, but now we have a global solution for students in Egypt and everywhere. And I think it will be very useful for our students and our participants in general. So thank you very much, Dr. Ayman, for giving me the opportunity to welcome the participants. I'm afraid if I take more minutes, I will disrupt the very important keynote speech. So thank you again, and hoping all success to this conference and all participants.
Thank you very much, Professor Ahmed. It's a pleasure and honor always having you in such events. Now I'm welcoming Professor Raham Singh from the Computer Science at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. Professor Singh is a great scientist with a very impressive biography that is published in the program of MIUCC. Professor Singh is a fellow member in several reputable senior member of the IEEE, fellow of the Computer Society of India, fellow member of the IEEE, and distinguished ACM speakers. He has contributed much to the development of multimedia communication over wired and wireless networks, and formed special interest group on wireless networks of Computer Society of India, and designed first converter and Sherman SEG WNS Society by CSI. He is a member of International Review Committee for Accreditation and chairing a number of programs of international conferences. He is working as a group member of the various IEEE standards, including IEEE B1931, IEEE and IEEE B1932.1 standard, and also co-authored IEEE B1931 standard that is in editing process. He also developed experiment based on simulation software for network experiments, research, and project work for undergraduate and postgraduate students. His research is developing video communication platforms for solving quality of service issues in video communication, and also develop a framework for video transmission over wireless network for undergraduate and postgraduate students. And you can find a lot of details on the link that is available in the program of the MIUCC. We are now going to enjoy a very interesting keynote speech from Professor Raham Singh. It's about a modified EES, Advanced Encryption Standard algorithm for strong encryption and enhanced security. I have a lot of things to say, but I'm not going to take more time, so we can enjoy all and benefit from the keynote speech of Professor Singh. It's an honor, pleasure having you in MIUCC. Please, sir, the floor is all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ayman. Now, can you see my presentation?
Yes, it's very clear, sir. Please go
on. Your Eminency, Excellency, guest speakers, member of IEEE, chair and office bearers of IEEE Egypt sections, authors, participants. I would like to thank to MISR International University and IEEE Egypt sections, especially Dr. Ayman, Dr. Islam Halim, for inviting me to this conference and for giving me the opportunity to talk about modified AES algorithm for strong encryption and enhanced security. So thank you so much for having me at 2021 International Mobile Intelligent and Ubiquitous Computing Conference. And I will be happy if you will collaborate next year, and our university may be the partner of this next version of conference in next year. So we will be happy to associate with you, and we will be happy to host also in Namibia if conference organizer will approve or they like to host in Namibia. I am also the IEEE DVB speaker. Just I want to say that it's initiated in 1971 by Dr. Yu, and provide professional and student chapters, top technology leaders and innovators for every sector for computing industry. And the important thing is new speaker and new topics are added on the ongoing basis. I'm the professor in computer science in Namibia Institute of Science and Technology. The university is a vibrant institution of higher learning with approximate 1,100,000 students enrolled, of which about 650 are the international students representing 32 countries and the 4 continents. Now, I would like to highlight that in my presentations regarding security part, I will present about the importance and the background, advanced encryption standards, algorithm, various existing modification of the advanced encryption standard, experimental design, and what are the performance metrics, and there are 2 important modifications that we have done, named as the enhanced AES with randomized S box as well as the randomized round key. Then I will present the result and the conclusion part. So the background and the importance of it, we know network are the part of our everyday life in all areas today. There is a large amount of data, both personal and the private, residing on these networks, including the intranet, extranet, internet, and also the local area network, or including some computing parts we called as cloud computing, fog computing, edge computing. An important thing is, especially for more secure network like defense or military organization, are also connected through the various networks throughout the world. Any loss of data is fully. I cannot see. I need a full scale.
Could you please press F5? Could you please press F5?
F5.
Slideshow.
Yeah, now it's fine. I think I can see the slide. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any loss of data in the defense military directly impact the national security. As this data has to be protected using strong encryption techniques, the advanced encryption standards, which is a federal information processing standards for systematic cryptography since 2001, and is one of the most used encryption standard all around the world for securing data to till date. So the AES algorithm, however, AES algorithm is known, all of the security lies only in the encryption keys. So the AES is to be prone to the brute force attacks and other form of crypto analysis. That is important things we need to rethink about the AES and encryption techniques. So the lack of stronger of near unbreakable AES algorithm for use in especially for the more secure like defense networks and applications remain an open problem right now. So there is a need to develop a enhanced version of the AES algorithm to be used for more secure networks, including military purpose, which is more stronger than the normal AES. If the strength of the algorithm lies in complexity and randomness of the algorithm, which makes it difficult for an attacker to break the code by either identify the pattern by simply making use of brute force attacks and trying out the possible combination of the encryption key. And the three parameters are the higher degree of the randomness, higher of complexity, and there should be algorithm secrecy part. So AES presently most secure symmetry algorithm as per the study. Still, we are using the AES in all the various applications since it was developed in 2001. I will also present something, the simulation results that we have done regarding to some modifications. And we know the simulation result will slightly be vary from the actual implementation, but it's well accepted by the research community. Now here is the important thing is only known unbreakable cyber system is one of the OTP. And the strength of OTP lies in the true randomness and encryption keys. So a number of attempts have been earlier to modify the AES to make it more complex and hence less vulnerable to the brute force attacks. This is one of the important attacks that we have seen in some of the studies in AES implementation, and also tweak the algorithm so that even algorithm is not to the attacker, unlike the original AES. So, however, the all modifications initially have not addresses the aspects of introducing the near true randomness keys of AES akin to unbreakable OTP. So the purpose of it is the true random key stream to encrypt to text. The key stream should be true random. The key stream should have a same length as the plain text. There should be only 2 copies of key. The key should be used only once. Both copies of keys should be destroyed immediately after they use. So even though right now OTP is the strongest key that we use for the strong network like military application. So primary strength is true randomness of the key stream. And what is the problem in the military applications? These days, many countries they are transferring their OTP keys by physical. So sometimes it's not possible in the remote area and they need to destroy. So the proposed modification AES will be ideally suited for the use of defense network where security of data of the vital interest to the country and we need to modify something. So I already told you that IEEE symmetric encryption standards since 2001. And in this standards, AES uses data block of 128 bits and the cipher key of 128, 192 or 256 bits. Number of rounds in AES, I will explain what do you mean by the number of rounds. AES is 128, 192, AES 256 are 10, 12, 14 respectively. It consists of the transformation of the applied data block iteratively a fixed number of rounds. This one is something about the AEN encryption and the AEN decryption. Here is we have 10 rounds, round 1, round 2, round 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So in this left side, there is a figure of encryption. In the right side, there is a figure of decryption. Is the same. The process is the same. The encryption It consists of number of transformations which are applied on the block of data, iteratively a fixed number of rounds. So the number of rounds on the length of the encryption key, there are 10 for 120K size, 12 rounds for 192K, and 14 rounds for 256K, as I explained in earlier slides. So for 10 rounds, 128K bit, 9 rounds are similar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 9 rounds are similar with 4 transformations, 1, 2, 3, 4 transformations. But the 10th round only have 3 transformations, less the mixed column in the draft of FIPS publications. In the decryption, the AES decryption process is totally inverse of the encryption process, and all transformation and iteration are applied inversely. I can see just a minute because so this is AES sub-byte transformations. In AES sub-byte transformation, the data block of 128 byte arranged in 4x4 initial matrix, and with each elements of matrix being a byte of data. In sub-byte transformation, each data byte in the matrix is used and indexed into this then S box. This is Rijndael X box 16 by 16 matrix and replaced with a sub-byte using 8-bit data with Rijndael X box. So this converts a plain text data matrix to the cipher matrix here. The inverse sub-bytes transformation directly inverse of sub-byte transformation, where is the each encrypted hyper in the cipher matrix is replaced back with the inverse sub-byte. So the S box use the derivative from the multiplicative inverse over Galois factors. Here is the Galois factors to raised to power 8 determined by the this formula, and the multiplicative inverse is then transformed using affine transformation. So this affine transformation is sum of multiple rotations of the bytes as well as the vector where the addition and is the XOR operations. Shift row transformation. In this case, this is the circular shift operations 0, which has no inverse and is mapped into 0. The implementation inverse is transferred into the into the FL transformation using XOR operations. Now mixed column and inverse mixed column transformation. This one is this operation is substitution, but it makes a use of arithmetic GF and Galois fields. Like this one is if I put here as in the matrix multiplication, this gives here is the each of byte column is replaced by new value, which is ascertained as the sum of product of all elements in one row with each columns. This is the AN encryption. These are the 10 different sets. This 32-bit sets, the row and columns, and there is the formula that we can calculate the respective values. So the 128K bit is organized into 2D array, 4 row and 4 column, 16 byte organization into 4 row and 4 column. So a set of 11. This is the set of 11, 128K bit are organized out of these 11 sets. 10 sets are used in 10 rounds, and the ES and one extra key is added to the initial states. So the generation of keys explained in the draft of FIPS that I gave I gave the link of the reference in my reference list. Now we need to know where is the research gap. So now I will explain, I will present something about the earlier modifications have been done by the various research community in the world. So this is hybrid crypto system using AES and hash functions. You can see there is reference is also there. In this hybrid system, a message digest of 256 bit generated by giving an arbitrary input in the SHA-2 hash algorithm is used as a key for encryption process in AES. So the same key is later used for the decryption also. That design increase the complexity of the design and hence enhance the security of AES algorithm. So it increases the complexity by using the hash function, but does not address the randomness and the algorithm. So we need to find out the solutions that will increase the randomness as well as the complexity of the algorithm. Another study, enhance AES for strong encryptions. You can see there is a reference, Sumit et al. 2012. And encryption, this encryption organized into 4 to 4. So in the hybrid system, message, this is the encryption organized into 4 to 4. And each row of this matrix is to used for all the modifications. So in this modification, encryption key is organized into 4 to 4. Each row of the matrix is used for the modification. First and second row used by modification, the sub-byte operations. Third row is used to modify the shift row operation. And the last row is used for modify the mixed column operations. And the planned data is organized in 4 by 4 matrix. So the enhanced AES for strong encryptions are we need a basic security of AES algorithm. Modification ensured no fixed pattern and provision a strong diffusion and the confusion. So does not address the complexity and the randomness again. So this is something is the modified sub-byte operations. Here, this is the cipher key, and the cipher key is this is 11222232 again divided into the byte, and byte again divided into space. So there are now we have some row. Each element of row of this key matrix converted into the binary form and generating 4 by 8 binary matrix. And first 4 bit of each binary value are grouped into the 4 group, namely I. Here is I 7 to I6, I5, I4, where I0, I1, I2, 3 stands for row number, and I4, I5, I6, I7 stands for column. So we have to divide into the row as well as the column. This is a modified row operations. Row 3 of the key matrix used to modify the shift operations, and the entire third row is replaced by its binary value. In this step, the third row, this row of the matrix is converted into the binary equivalent form. More detail is also given in my presentations. Now mixed column. This third row, here is the third row, CCDDEF. This is the third row, again divided into the binary form in like of this group. If modulus of DE is the resultant value of modulus of D is 3, then it's a mixed, the 4 column. If the modulus of CF is this one is 2, then this one is the mix of the second column. So the modification of the expansion, key expansions, MD5 based hash function. So in this case, the key expansions operation is also modified. MD5 based digest of 128 bit key is calculated. So the digest is then combined with the key and compressed to just 16th byte to 128 bits. So this 128 bits is then converted into the word. So following three functions perform the word generated like rotate word, subbyte, and the output. So the modified AES strong algorithm, what's the analysis? We need basic security of the AES algorithm. Modification ensure no fixed pattern and provide strong diffusion and confusion. So tweaks modify algorithm but does not address the complexity and randomness still. There is another study by Rao, Tejasvi. The modification involved two aspects: initial key for encryption and generation using polybice spare, increase of key of 320 bits rather than the standard key size of these ones. So in this study, the original key size are changed by this study, and that study also increased the number of rounds from 10 to 16. It means the original AES was modified by this particular research or algorithm. This is the key generation modification algorithm from this study. If you want to transmit a secure is here as this is S. So we have to take first row and the column. So regarding to the S, the number is 3 and 0 need to be transmit. Next character is E. Here is the E. This one is the 0. Again, E is 4, so 0, 4. It means if you want to transmit SE, then we need to transmit 30, 0, 4. So this is the key generation in this modified algorithm that I took from this study. So in this study, increase complexity by increasing the key size and also the number of rounds, because that originally changed, that particular research originally changed the AES algorithm, and it still does not address the randomness and the algorithm security. Another statistics is the improved AES using MAC addresses. So MAC address is the research proposed in modification of the structure of the AES by using the MAC address. So the basic idea is to increase the randomness in the AES algorithm. So this idea is to increase the randomness of algorithm. So MAC address of the machine is used and add on the key, which is in turn used to shuffle the S box as well as shift row operation in the AES round encryption. Therefore, they increase the complexity and the time required for the brute force attacks by increasing the total number of possible keys. So that increased from 2 raised to power 128 to 2 raised to power 176. So, but this particular research does not again addresses the randomness. So we need to address the randomness as well as the complexity. This one is another study. This modification of AES increases the complexity of increasing the key size from 384, 512, 568, and 1024. So the modified version of AES is more complex and the robust as compared with the original AES, and encryption and decryption is almost the same. So now we need to know the design implementation of customized encryption algorithm for authentication and secure communications between devices. I took from this study. So we will discuss the two. So this is the proposed or customized AES algorithms for new protocol and safe exchange. Now, we have now we have to go for the new protocols for communication between two devices, an option to use some protocols for multiple devices through the central server. So the basic concept to increase complexity, randomness, and tweak the algorithm to make it stronger compared to the plain AES. Hybrid system for central authentication and the secure communication for the multiple devices and does not address the complexity, randomness, and the algorithm in this research. There is another research have been done, the simulation, and the simulation have been done in MATLAB. The result is maximum encryption time of 87 milliseconds and decryption time of 88 milliseconds, resultant superior to the similar software implementation in AES. Efficient implementation, but does not address the complexity and randomness of algorithm secrecy. Another research have been done by Mirza in 2016. Uses the size of 128-bit as the plain AES, and hence the key 256-bit to 512 bit key size. Number of rounds is 10, unlike 14 in plain AES for 256-bit key size. So the improved security by increasing key sizes and enhance complexity. Compromise of number of rounds to offset additional processing time because it's increased from 10 to 14 and does not address again the randomness and the algorithm secrecy. So there is a comparison. These are the parameters. Here is comparison between the plain AES and the proposed AES. This one is the comparison matrix. And what are the components if you want to develop the AES or if you want to improve the AES algorithm? So the component that we need to consider the characteristics of the unbreakable encryption algorithm, degree of randomness in the algorithm, complexity of AES algorithm, and the resistance to the brute force attacks. Because from the study, we can see that right now there is only one attack have been done on the AES is the brute force attacks, no other attacks. Sometimes some researchers ask a question why we are considering only the brute force attacks. So based on the research, that is only attacks that we find that the brute force attack on the AES algorithm, and we need to improve the algorithm. So the hybrid crackpot system using hash functions MAC address the another component. We can also implement in the MATLAB or another open source softwares. Various modifications of AES challenges and results that we already explained in my previous presentations. So till now, all modification increases the complexity of AES, is key sizes, increase number of rounds, use hash or MAC address to increase the diffusion, make it difficult to identify pattern and encryption text. No modification truly address all these three parameters of security, namely complex, randomness, and algorithm. So this is one of my students have developed the conceptual framework and also simulated and developed some algorithm based on the 3 dimensions. Here is the complexity. This is higher possible combination of keys to increase the resistance of brute force attacks. Another parameter is tweak algorithm is for secrecy, and the randomness is difficult to identify the pattern, gives the modified AES with stronger encryption and enhance the security. So the experimental framework will give the flexibility to explore the strength and the efficiency of the various modifications to the AES algorithm and fine-tune them. Development of strength modification of the AES algorithm through the 3 dimensions approach that I presented in my previous slides, and that this particular study implemented and simulated in the MATLAB software. Development of suitable modification AES algorithm, which introduces complexity as well as the randomness into AES and implemented in MATLAB software. Performance evaluation metrics, we measure the security and efficiency of proposed modification to be measured and compared with the plain AES and also the earlier modifications. So the complexity, this is 2 raised to power 128 plus 2 raised to power number of the random number bits introduced in the developed or the proposed AES, and also the executed time bit per second that I will show you in some of the results in later. Now we have published three papers based on the modification of enhanced AES with randomized S box. You can see there is a IEEE Explorer link is also there. And for the enhanced AES with randomized round key, there is also link is also available. I will be explained briefly, but if you need to know more detail, then you need to follow those papers. So the algorithm used to randomness based on the modern version of the Fisher-Yates first for random number generator in computers. So the algorithm has been time complexity, and the algorithm introduced the randomness in AES in an efficient manner as to minimize the time efficient effect on the performance of AES is making more secure. So the modification makes use for this randomization algorithm to generate 250 bits random number, to rearrange the X box. This is important thing because this is the randomized X box. In the sub-byte operation, I explained in my previous presentations and slides. As of AES, this increases the randomness and the complexity, and also tweak the algorithm and therefore making it more secure. So the enhanced the AES algorithm makes the use of 256 byte random number generator to rearrange the S box used by sub-byte operation. I explained in my previous slides. So this increased the randomness as I already explained. So you can see there is a more detail, but limited. We have a limited time. If you need to more detail, then you need to refer the reference papers from IEEE Explorer. You can access from the papers from IEEE Explorer. And the results, you can see the complexity in this particular algorithm. This is the plain AES, and this one is the complexity of AES with the randomized S box. That because this is 256 we use initially, the randomized X box. So the complexity will increase. The increase from 2 raised to power 128 plus 2 raised to power 256. Hence, the AES is more resistant to the brute force attack. Now we can see the timing diagram. Sometimes some researchers ask a question: if you add the extra layer for the AES, so what we are doing? What about the timing or execution diagram? So you see the time difference is, this is the average time difference in encryption time. This is 356.9 millisecond. This is the plain AES, and here is the enhanced AES with randomized S box is 357.44. It's a slight difference. If you see, there is a graphical display. So there is no major changes. This is a slightly difference. So the time is we need the small time in only the first round in initiations. So there is a negligible time difference. So it's not the trade-off between the time and the sequence. This is the decryption time is same. Decryption time is almost the equivalent. If you see from the diagram, that the decryption time is almost the same. This one is the second enhancement, is enhanced AES randomized algorithm. So in this algorithm, the basic logic of the proposed algorithm is randomized the key, much like to random key, used by the OTP systems for the encryption, which makes it most secure algorithm in the world. So the proposed AES algorithm uses 1408-bit random number and XOR with 11 into 128-bit keys required for the initial add key operation and add of round key operation in each of 10 rounds of the AES 128-bit algorithm. So the proposed AES will be near 2 random keys which will be randomized using the algorithm. So it's the same here. Is we have to use, this is the algorithm for enhanced AES code for the randomized algorithm. Now these are the results. We see the complexity. So now this is the plain AES, and what about this is the complexity of the enhanced AES with the randomized key, and the complexity increased 2 raised to power 128 plus 2 raised to power 1408. So the complexity is also increased so that we can use with more secure network like defense or military applications. So by using the complexity, we can increase or we can enhance the AES and is more resistant to the brute force attack. We cannot say this is 100% that there is 100% that against the brute force attacks. We know that there is no key without lock. So key is there, but this is more resistance to the brute force attack. Here is again there is a timing diagram. This is the encryption time 256, and this is the encryption time in the proposed algorithm. That there is a slightly difference. If you see the timing diagram, there is a visual presentations, and this is an example timing diagram. So there is no trade-off of between timing as well as a randomness. But you see that with the timing, we need to generate this 2 raised to power 1408 the initially first round. That is small time we needed in the encryption as well as in the decryption. That's why there is a time difference. This is the encryption and decryption timing diagram is negligible. This is 444.7 millisecond, and here is 445 milliseconds only.
Professor Hassan, we are running out of time, so yeah, we need to spare some time for questions.
Yeah, so this is my last. So yeah, thank you for reminding me.
Thank you.
So the enhanced AES with the conclusion of this presentation is the enhanced AES is randomized round key and is a stronger version of the plain AES. Both modification of AES along increase the randomness and the complexity, as also tweak the algorithm there for making it more secure. So the strength of modification is enhanced. It does not change the basic mathematical structure of AES, that is important, and only adds the randomness and the additional security element. The comparison proves that the execution time in both encryption and the decryption, both of plain AES and the proposed AES randomized round key and the S-box are comparable. Hence, we are able to achieve the much higher security, but negligible overheads in terms of execution time. These are some references. I would like to share that our university also received this is not related to this talk, but this is just an announcement that Namibian University of Science and Technology received a UNESCO Chair Awards in Smart and Secure Environment. We deal in smart communications, big data infrastructure, and analytics and cyber security. Undersigned is the UNESCO chair, and we will be happy to collaborate with the international university for this project. We have also another international workshop we'll be organizing from 9 to 12 August. If you are interested, you can follow that link. dsmlai.com. Thank you. Any questions? Again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this prestigious conference. Now the floor is open for the question.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insightful talk and very important topic of increasing the complexity and security of the advanced encryption standard. And I now, with my colleague, Dr. Islam Amr, the coordinator for this session, we may get questions and answers, and I may ask our colleagues to help allowing for the floor to give questions, if there is any, please. While we may get some questions and answers from the floor, I would like to discuss 2 or 3 points with you, Professor Singh. The increasing of the complexity of ES is very important right now, although it didn't have any practical published attack. Of course, you know that the problem of cryptography, that many of the works are classified, so we are not sure at any given point of time that what we are using is really secure. But in the post-quantum world that we are going into right now, the problem of quantum computing and very powerful supercomputing, and we see a lot of post-quantum cryptographic systems, mainly public key crypto systems like the lit-spaced and so on. So what do you think of the future of symmetric encryption like AES in the quantum era and the post-quantum cryptography world? If you please can elaborate on this, Professor Singh.
Thank you, Ayman, for your nice questions regarding the importance of the AES. You know, in my presentations, I explained the previous modifications regarding the AES, and most of modifications they changed the AES mathematical model. They changed the mathematical model, and still, even though we are using the AES encryption techniques right now, and it's more secure right now. There are some brute force attacks. Some of the studies I already told you that they change the initial structures in terms of the number of rounds, in terms of number of bits. But in our presentations, I suppose the AES is still its strongest. Yeah. So what we did right now, we have not changed anything the original AES. We have added on the additional layer, additional security on the AES, because it is since last 20 years it is the well-known and the secure encryption techniques, and it's mathematically proved. If I change the mathematical, then it will change the concept of AES initially. So as per your question, my suggestion, we can use this as a symmetric key. We can use the symmetric key AES in our applications, but we have to add the security layer on the top of AES to increase. Even though there is some small time difference in the execution time, but it's a trade-off between the execution time and the security network. And these days we need a secure network. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, thank you, sir, very much. And I would like, before giving the microphone to my colleague, that I am very admiring your work to introduce such an implementation of AES to an experimental and research platform such as MATLAB. That's going to open the ease of use of encryption paradigms to researchers in the multimedia and other disciplines. So it's an important point that was raised also in your talk. Thank you very much. Dr. Islam, if you would like, please.
Yeah, we have a question from the attending. There is a question would say, for how many more years the EES going to stand? I think the question is based on the advancing in the processing power of PCs. So he is asking about the reliability and robustness of EES algorithm. And his second question is that is the AES applicable for lightweight devices? Can quantum computing improve the encryption and decryption time?
So regarding to the first questions, that how long AES, again we need to refer. You see, again, AES is still, it was developed in 2001, and it was mathematically well proved that the AES is the strongest key. In the question, this very good questions, that in 2021 there was not computing facilities like right now we have high performance computing and other computing devices, and it is easy to crack. That's why the only attack that we can see is the brute force attacks on AES. So even though we have many previous versions, they changed the initial round, they changed the initial number of bits to increase the complexity. So this is again the debate, the issue that we have to change the original AES. But as per my understanding, still original AES is the mathematical proved, and it is very challenging if you challenge the original AES. And again, the addition of the additional layer on the AES that increase the security. If you want, if according to the questions, if you want to develop the brute force against attacks AES algorithm or some other algorithms, then we have to prove the mathematical. I cannot see any mathematically proved algorithm that is based on the mathematical as well as the simulation. So if still it is the strongest, it is the secure, why we will change. But again, the question is, the student asked for the lightweight. Now we know we are talking for the edge computing. Regarding in computing parts, we are talking for the computing layers. Most of applications is the cloud based, and maybe it's a distributed system based, and even though we are applying another type of security like blockchain system and other things. So, but we at the edge computing, for the lightweight, we have to implement the modified as security at the edge. So it will give the more secure, and you can save your computation parts for the edge devices. So you have to develop new devices, and you have to implement it, the security at the edge in the hardware. And in that case, that you can develop the more secure lightweight devices for more secure work. Even though if you want to improve the AES, you have to add some additional things. There is also some small execution time initially around. We need to. There is a trade-off between the times and the security. And if there is a more secure network, there is no options. We have to go for the more security. If less security, if you are lightweight applications, there is less security environments. So we have to go for the lightweight AES algorithm. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope I answered your questions. If it's still not, then I can repeat it.
Thank you, sir. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, and we have to give maybe 2 or 3 minutes for the next session. So on behalf of MIU, the Masr International University, and MIUCC Conference, we appreciate your contribution. We would like to thank you very much for your interesting talk and presentation. Thank you, sir. Hope next year it will be physical, and we welcome you in Cairo, Egypt. Thank you very much, and again, we are very happy and honored to have you on the panel of MIUCC. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the participants, and we will be continuing in 2 minutes for the next panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ayman, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Islam. How are you? Thank you.
Fine,
Ayman.
thank you.
Again, thank you for giving me this opportunity.
No, not at all. You are my DV, so it's my responsibility.
Yeah, and hope you will meet next time.
Okay.
And
okay.
we are happy to collaborate in this regular series of the conference. Our university will be happy.
For sure. And we're going to repeat this great event with you in next times in different regions soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Islam.
Thank you. Dr. Anne, how are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, it's so clear. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you with us today here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. If you'd like, we can start immediately. Or?
Okay.
Yeah, before we start, again, it's an honor and pleasure having you with us today, Professor, for the conference. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to the DVB for the great support that we got this year in the conference. We are waiting for a very interesting and fruitful talk from you. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Please go on. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's first introduce you, Dr. If you please.
Sure.
Sure. Okay. Okay. I'd like to welcome Dr. Anne Elster. She is a professor of high performance computing and computer science in Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and was the co-founder and co-director of its computational science and visualization program. She is also a visiting scientist at the University of Texas at Austin. She has been an active participant and committee member of ACM IEEE since 1990. She's senior member of IEEE, life member of American Geophysical Union, as well as member of ACM. Of course, she is one of our greatest DV in IEEE Computer Society. Dr. Anne has a very interesting scientific research. Her current research interests are in high performance parallel computing, focusing on developing good models and tools for heterogeneous computing and parallel software. She is one of the most well-known scientists in the parallel computing domain. Also, she is founder and director for the HPC Lab, Department of Computer and Info Science in Norway University. Started her research group and founded as a lab in 2008. It's now an established research lab in heterogeneous and parallel computing, consisting of several postdoc, PhD students, and master students, as both national and international visiting colleagues and scientists who want to learn about experiment with heterogeneous computing. Dr. Anne has she supervised more than 75 master theses. She has also supervised several PhD and postdoc and served on PhD committee internationally, including in Denmark, Italy, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, and the United States. Dr. Anne, I wish I can see an Egyptian student in your lab next year, as we have very promising candidates in Egypt, and I'm looking forward to more collaboration between Misr International University and your prestigious lab in the near future.
Thank you. That would be very nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, I'd like to thank you for being here today. I'd like to thank you, thank the DVB program for providing our great speakers during this event. Now, Dr. Anne will give us a very interesting talk about parallel computing and AI impact and opportunities. I'm honored to have my colleague, Dr. Taragi Ghanem, in this great session. Please, Dr. Anne, you can start your talk now.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So you need to stop sharing for me to be able to share. So next.
Shall I go to the next slide? Or
yes, next slide, please.
Okay. Thank you.
And yeah, I already talked about the slides, and that's from a view both from Trondheim and from Texas. So you can go to the next slide. And like I said, I couldn't do all this work without my wonderful students. You already introduced them nicely, so you can go to the next slide. Next slide. Yes, and of course, all our collaborators. And also, I'm part of a new Center for Research-Based Innovation. It's a national project worth about $25 million over the next several years. And I'm really happy to be part of that as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next slide. So the applied areas I'm working in is obviously for geophysical modeling as the new center, but also done in medical technologies. You know, big things in Norway are oil, and of course we're worried about it all. You know, population getting older, so medical research is also well funded. but I also have collaborations with people in physics, process engineering, applied math, and others. Next slide. And here we see at the opening last fall, and we just about to hire 11 new PhDs, and we will have even more PhD positions coming in the next several years. And also I have another postdoc position open. So if any people are interested with PhDs and postdocs in my group, let me know. Next slide. So the topic of this talk is both AI for HPC and an HPC for AI. So AI for HPC means how can AI help HPC or parallel computing become, better and more efficient? How can we get better tools, with the help of AI? Whereas, a lot of people talk about how parallel computing and HPC can help AI. In fact, I'll claim the only reason where AI is as advanced as it is today, especially in machine learning, is because we now have access to a vast amount of data and vast amount of compute resources. Next slide. So how can the parallel computing help AI? So the thing is that modern AI no longer builds models by hand. Now, so it automates the building, the modeling process, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that requires access to lots and lots of data, like petabytes of data preferably, but obviously not all sets are that big, and sometimes they get problems because they're not big enough. And that those big data sets require a lot of data processing. And that's why parallel computing is the enabler of modern day AI, or especially machine learning. And the problem is when you needed all that compute power is that we hit a power wall. In fact, they often say we hit the brick wall. As you can see from this slide, it's been shown by many, is you see that processors, you can't just wait for the frequency or the clock of your computer to go up next year and a silicon to shrink and hope that everything you programmed from last year will run twice as fast this year. That's just because, the processor gets so hot beyond 4 or 5 gigahertz that it's not feasible to have it on your laptop or, practically have, even liquid cooling them is so expensive. So you have to do something. And that, since the power grows exponentially, what you do instead, as you probably know, is you use multiple cores. So many cores. And even your smartphone today is actually now a multi-core with a GPU, a graphics processing unit. Now, to take advantage of this, you have to really expose yourself to parallel computing and parallelism, either through libraries or you have to try to learn how to program them yourself. Next slide. Now, of course, AI itself has also become such a big topic. So, HPC or parallel computing enabled AI, but now AI is such a big market that it's influencing the computing market. So if you look at the, box from NVIDIA these days, it's very much influenced by artificial intelligence. In fact, they market themselves no longer as a graphics card gaming company, but as an AI company. And here you see one of the recent boxes. And you can see it's amazing specs on this thing. It has 604 gigabytes of memory. I mean, memory, not disk, memory. Gigabytes, 640 gigabytes of memory. It has, a very fast switch, 4.8 terabyte bidirectional bandwidth switch. It has 64 core CPU, which, decent server, but it has even more, of these CUDA cores. And now also special cores that are targeted small matrix operations that are 4x8 or 8x4, known as tensor cores. And we'll talk more about them later. Next slide. So how can AI help HPC? Because obviously HPC with all this parallelism is helping AI. So we can use AI techniques to help with code optimization and data pruning for HPC. So one of these areas that are emerging is full wavefront inversion that's used in the oil industry or geophysics in general. And so it's a tool to build accurate velocity models by refining and minimizing the difference between the recorded data and the model data you're trying to emulate. And the current world scale models run some of the world's largest supercomputing, including, I know it's also been run at the Summit, the biggest supercomputer in the US. Next slide. Hope I'm not speaking way too fast, am I? Am I okay?
No, it's fine, it's fine. It's okay.
So the parallel computing history from my personal perspective is I started working on concurrent and parallel Pascal in the 80s. Probably shouldn't mention that. That still tells you how old I am. And the first Intel Hypercube I got to program actually in Bergen in the summer of 1986. And also at Cornell. And then the first Cray arrived here at NTNU at the same year. So that's when Norway also entered the supercomputing era, but I was a student in the States. And then when I had a summer job in the summer of 1987, where I got probably to use the most percentage of the world's supercomputing power, because we hooked up 4 IBM 3090s, which is that time was considered a supercomputer, and it had multiprocessing across those 4 3090s. Now, the 3090s were vector machines, so you can think of them as a massive graphics cards. And then we hooked up 4 of them. And I hate to tell you, the power of those 4 3090s probably was less than the box I just pointed to you earlier. I've then been working on several, exoteric machines that in the 80s and 90s were popular, but had a big fallout of that industry. And so then since 2000, you will see the emergence of clusters. Tom Sterling introduced the Beowulf clusters. And today, I'd say most supercomputers can be viewed as clusters of SMPs or clusters of some sort. And the processor is no longer specially designed for HPC or parallel computing. It's more designed for an application area, and it's what we call commercial off-the-shelf parts. And you'll notice that our supercomputer, what we consider a supercomputer here at Trondheim, that I was part of acquiring in 2006, had 7 teraflops. With a proprietary switch. Today, you get more teraflops out of a graphics card, high-end graphics card, but still. I also serve on the Norway's National Resource Allocation Committee for HPC or supercomputing and storage access. Next slide. So the way I got into GPU computing, when I saw that there's a lot more effort going into the design of processors for gaming, because that was a much bigger market than the HPC market or parallel computing market. So whereas Cray used to specially design chips for us, a lot of the brain power in the world were excited to work on these graphics cards that the gamers used. And so, it went from NVIDIA's first GPU in 1999. And before that, we also had some video processing on the, I don't know if you guys, some of you are old enough to remember the Amigas. They actually had even a separate processor for doing several things in the graphics pipeline, to the ones that we saw appearing on the top 500 supercomputer list in 2010. In fact, the biggest computers already in 2020 used several of these. Next slide. And this is I mentioned the Summit, so I figured I'd give a picture of it. It's no longer the world's largest or biggest supercomputers. That's in Japan. And here in Norway, we'll get access to the Lumi system in Finland. That'll be available this fall with their GPUs. Is already up and running, but getting the GPUs this fall. And that will actually be faster than the one in Japan, but it probably still will not be the fastest in the world because there are other big computers coming online. Next. So how do we program these for performance? Next. So the biggest clue, is to keep the registers busy. So you want to keep as much data as locally as possible. And that means not disk, obviously, not just your memory, RAM, but actually in the registers. Now, if you also can use and keep them busy by doing lots of caching, introducing memory access, even by getting the GPU or something else to do compression and decompression, that's very, very useful. And that's probably a number one goal for getting that performance out of a parallel computer. Next. And there are lots of resources you can check for that. Here's nice tutorial workshop that's virtual and free that you can access from Cornell University, where I got my PhD. So I'm just giving you that resource here, and you can look at it afterwards. Next. So from that slide you saw, you can see how, what an impact where you are in the memory hierarchy have on performance, right? So you see the processor core, where you're actually doing the math, have an 84.6 gigabytes per second latency between the registers and the L1 cache. And then you get it even longer to the L2 cache, and then even longer to the L3 cache. And these are all on chip, right? And then of course you have an even worse access to the local memory. And that's local memory, not some exoteric, compute storage. Next. And so how do we then program for conversion? Well, another way you could do it is move the data to the compute resources. Like you probably, although there's a lot of talk about the cloud, the worst thing you probably can do is get your data down from the cloud and then do compute on it. You really want it online where you are, or move the compute to the data. So have the compute at the data center. So for instance, in Norway at Northstore, we have a GPU facility that's not part of the HPC facility, but it is for a compute facility for storage. Next. And of course, as computer scientists, we know this, and that's sort of what I think makes the computer scientist, especially once you've taken algorithms, is that the impact of algorithms. You still have to pick the right algorithms, especially the algorithms that worry about locality of the memory. Next. So this all leads to what in the United States and Europe, at least in Norway, also say about when you sell a house, the price of a house is not so important, the quality of a house, but it actually is where it is located. That's what affects the price. Like if an apartment in downtown Oslo or Trondheim, New York, or any major city would be a whole lot more expensive than a house of similar quality in a very remote location. So it's all about location, location, and location. We're going to feed the parallel core register fast enough, that's location. We're going to move the compute to the data, that's about location. And you need to pick the right algorithm that addresses the data distribution. That's also about location. So if that's all you remember from my talk today, location, location, and location, you're already way to understanding parallel computing. Next. And of course, it gets more complicated as we now have these crazy boxes I showed you earlier. That's very heterogeneous, right? Because here we have the GPUs integrated with the CPUs, and then even on the GPUs, there's several types of processor cores. So what you really need to do is to know how to profile. And that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about now. Next. So one thing I've been working with the Saturn, which is the big physics facility in Switzerland, also extending into France, is how to profile code on big physics codes that they're depending on NVIDIA GPUs. Next. So we're using my student is using a couple of tools. For if you profile on the CPU, you should just about all my students use file grind, call grind, and cache grind. You also, of course, have vTune for Intel processors, but you get a lot of the information you need on the CPU side with file grind, call grind, and cache grind. Now, if we go to the GPU, stay there. We're using Insight Systems to identify the overall system bottleneck. So that's the first thing you want to do, and we'll show you how to do that in the next slide. And then we're going to use Insight to compute to really dig down and find the bottlenecks inside the compute kernels. Next. So here you see a view from profiling the MadRAF application on Valgrind. So you can see we just ran Valgrind, and I just gave you the line that will actually execute, and you get some overview of how you are, how much the main routine should take about 99% of time, but you can see it really which number of line functions is called and the percentage of time spent in the function and the function it calls. Okay. Next. And here you see how you could profile your GPU code with Insight Systems. Again, you did an NSYS profile. That's how it was installed. She's been actually accessing the San Diego Supercomputing Center to get access to the A100s for some of her work here. And you specified the number of blocks per grid, the thread blocks, and the iterations. These are sort of parameters you have to specify for the GPU side. And then you can see the 12 iterations on that and the visualization of it. And that gives you an overview of the actual application. And here you can see a very small bit is actually done in the compute side because it's a very IO bound sort of mini application, but they grow it bigger and then it becomes more compute bound. So looking at the compute bound side, you use the Insight Compute, which is the next slide. Next slide. Yeah, there it is. And then you can see, here you can see expanded out that one iteration and how you can see the IO, the memory calls is dominating with the compute side is the one little circle in orange. And that's the one we're now going to use Insight Compute on. Next slide. So here you can see a profile using Insight Compute. You see this, how you use it in the sort of line above. Again, you specify thread blocks and iterations. And you can see here that this application right now only uses the ALU, hits the floating point 64-bit when really hard. That's a big solid red blue line, right? The longest blue line, but doesn't use any of the tensor cores and others. So here's where you see and look for opportunities for how to, do better with your code. Next slide. So we're going to continue working with Saturn and Marina Ginones group, and she's the CTO of Saturn Open Lab. And of course, there we can vary the size number of thread blocks. We can change the memory out utilization. We can reduce precision or do mixed precision. And then, of course, use sampling information to identify the hotspots. My student, Ingrid, that worked on that, she also looked over at the different benchmark for machine learning as a pre-project in last fall, and came to the conclusions that if you're looking for a benchmark suite for machine learning, MLPerf is the clear choice. She has a nice report on that as well. Next slide. We also started, back in 2015, my master's student started using AI techniques for optimizing codes. And that, together our profile at Supercomputing, led to Associate Professor Gavin Taylor visiting us for 14 months in 2017 to 2018. So it's really nice to have a local ML expert with us. And he also brought over two of his midship students the summer of 2017. I'm now going to give you a little parallel history between AI and HPC. In the 50s, AI was more like in science fiction, Isaac Asimov, and we only had 1 million bits, not bytes or gigabytes of a magnetic drum. Fortran was introduced in the 50s, and we used to program them on punch card. In fact, my very first programming class in Fortran, I hate to tell you, it was in the 80s, but they made us actually use a punch card machine. And then that was around the same time that an AI term itself was coined, artificial intelligence, by John McCarthy and group organized at Dartmouth that summer. Next. So I mentioned I did concurrent Pascal, and AI also took an AI graduate course as an undergrad at University of Massachusetts that was basically covering the AI handbook that was done by Professor Cohen, and it was like a 3-volume thing. And the big topic of the day was expert systems. That's sort of what the AI focused on it. In the mid 80s, we started seeing the hypercubes built up, commercial off the shelf, and the 5th generation computing project in Japan took place. That sort of gave a lot of new oomph to the AI field. And then as we came to the late 80s, there was, like I say, the AI had a big revival due to the better algorithms and toolkits and funding. And we saw a lot of nice, interesting, big parallel computers on the computer side. Now, in 1990, Robert Brooks at MIT Lab said elephants don't play tests. So like I said, there was a very bottom up and expert system, like, you know, if this, then that, you know, it was like a big if then else clause or switch clause, if you wish. And you also saw the thinking machines and other bankruptcies towards mid 90s. Next slide. Then you saw the sort of big moment that people remember is how Kasparov was beaten by chess by the IBM Blue machine. That was more top down. And SGI systems and others that I started, and then the compute clusters starting coming into place in the mid 2000s. Now in 2002, you also saw iRobot's first Roomba vacuum, and you also saw Boston Dynamics War Dog. Now Boston Dynamics, as you may know, is now owned by a Japanese company. And then by 2008, there was the biggest thing I think that we have impacted on for the everyday person is how iPhone started doing real speech recognition. And now we have Alexa and Siri and all those wonderful tools that, you know, really recognize speech and you can make commands, right? And the approach was that it used thousands of powerful computers running parallel neural nets and learning to spot patterns in vast amount of data from Google users. So you can see the impact of supercomputers. Next slide. Then in 2011, IBM Watson actually won the sort of gaming Jeopardy, where you have a lot of questions. And you just saw the video cards, the GPUs really impacting both HPC and AI. And of course, by 2015, AI was super hot and has been ever since, just growingly hot. We use machine learning for parameter optimization of a GPU program. And, you know, you see a lot of other applications of AI, especially in medical imaging, seismics, name it, right? And we're continuing to apply AI hardware and AI techniques to supercomputing and HPC. Next slide. So just to make clear, there's AI versus AGI. The AGI is the artificial general intelligence, and that's machines that successfully can perform intellectual tasks that human beings can, and maybe more, and they possibly have a sense of self. But the AI, when we talk of just AI without the G, we generally talk about statistical, AI such as statistical regressions, which, it's a fancy form of statistics that led to machine learning. We see the image and speech recognitions I mentioned. We do big amounts of data analytics. And we also, of course, have a big application with autonomous cars that are, not quite there yet, but getting there, right? Next slide. There's some pitfalls to this AI. Whoops, I think you skipped a slide. There's the ethics in AI, which, AI can have a lot of unethical uses. It can really spy on you 24/7 through all cameras and everything. And, we worry about the misuse of access to vast amount of data. One of the AGI pitfalls, of course, is hard coding morality, possibly, right? Next. So there's, we have a lot of good results in, like I say, visual computing, speech recognitions, make good use of big data. But that big data is actually needed. And you'll find that when you don't have enough data to train on or model based on, you really don't get the results you hope for. Next. So the basic of a neural network is you have some input, you do some weighted sum or some, analysis of those inputs in a hidden layer, and then you and you can have several hidden layers, as you'll see in the next slide, and then outcome and output. Next slide. So here the deep learning is that you have many hidden layers. And of course, if you have many hidden layers, you need even bigger data sets for it to work. Next. And within machine learning, you have the supervised version where you have conditional independence, like in naive Bayesian. You have logistical regression. You have the support vector machine, or SVM, you hear people talk about. And there within that field, you have subgradient descent and coordinate descent. And then you have the whole other field with unsupervised learning, where the biggest field is cluster analysis. And I have a visitor from Aarhus in Denmark who's in AI, who's learning more HPC in my group. And that's the subgroup he's in, cluster analysis. Whereas, Gavin Taylor is more of a reinforcement learning person. Next slide. So what is next? I guess I'm really over time getting a slow start, but just want to mention that there's certain HPC computer architecture trends. Obviously, we talked about the heterogeneous system. We're moving the compute to the networks. We have an accelerator for X, given applications. And we're also seeing a lot of compute on the edge. So edge computing, which I think this conference here is all about. And you're getting, as your smartphones are becoming little supercomputers, obviously your edge devices are getting extremely powerful. And when you have a lot of sensor networks, you probably should do a lot of at least data pruning on the edge before you start bringing them up the hierarchy. Next. So some of the tricks of the trade here is that you really need to worry about locality, like I said. You need to do more at the same time with the pipelining and multiple functional units. You need to schedule the operations so that you can maximize the parallelism efficiently. And you need to do some kind of speculations. And here you can see how some AI could be used both for branch prediction, prefetching, and also just optimizing the codes in general. Next. I already talked about heterogeneity. I think the biggest advice I can give to people in general is use the libraries that are provided by the vendor. It gives you an amazingly increase in performance. That goes for whether you're using just the basic linear algebra program for matrix multiply, your FFTs, your conjugate gradient solvers, or any kind of even CUN, CUDA's CNN library. Next. Next slide. And why, oops, go back. And why is because of this. Now, if you're just going to encode a matrix multiply in Python and compare it to what a library or hand optimized code, you can get a 60,000 speed up of the same code on just a regular Intel processor before you even start using your GPUs. So this should make you think about using those libraries. Now, how it gets there, you can go to this course at MIT and find out how you optimize codes and why Python is so much slower than C, and using C, especially C optimization. As you can see, you get a sort of 40+ performance increase just going from Python to C for this very compute intensive kernel, I should point out. And that's because you can tailor the kernels so they perfectly match in the cache hierarchy and register. Next, and use vector registers. We're now working in my group on auto tuning. It's a big field out there. There's the search space part, the benchmarking part, there's different search techniques. You could do it with the use of pure mathematics, computer engineering, and applied mathematics all coming together to help tune the code for you, so hopefully you don't have to do all everything from, at least for if you're in physics or chemistry, you have to do everything yourself. Next. And like I said, AI has also made a big leap forward. Next, we'll skip this. Like I say, you have a huge company like NVIDIA going from graphics processors to AI processors. Next. And there's a lot of them out there, right? Google TPUs, Intel's neuromorphic chip, Fujitsu's Poké, which is now Fujima, the main supercomputer in Japan. There's quantum computing, and the company I'm going to talk to tomorrow, GraphCore, all advancing the hardware in this area. Next. So I think I'm running out of time, but I worked on doing machine learning based auto tuning back in 2015, and you can see the slides afterwards and look at these references. Next slide, please. I've also recently, just actually last Friday, my students actually presented at 2 different conferences, touting advances selecting optimal auto-tuning techniques and benchmarking techniques for auto-tuning. And there was also, we also put together a nice paper on how to, the large-scale CUDA auto-tuning data set that we put together and are now using machine learning on, for instance, for block sizes. Yes, next slide. And like I say, there's lots of references here you can look at after this talk. Next. And some of the parameters you can tune on GPUs are, like I mentioned already, thread block size, thread coarsening, thread mapping, how it accesses your threads, patterns, use the texture memory for other than just graphics textures, but actually use them for compute. And they've also specialized memories on the GPU that are more specialized than the one on the CPU. Next. And as you can see, depending on the whether it's a CPU or which type of GPU it is, the answer to what's the best, how you chunk it up is actually varied, just like it would be on a also for Intel versus AMD processor and what generation it is and so on. Next. And not always does what you do work. We tried to download this CUDA SDK and tried to program some AI with Gavin on that, and that wasn't successful. Again, if the data is too similar, that's what we think it is, or too little, you can't do AI tuning. And it just doesn't work. And so there's a lot of pitfalls with AI. Next. And there's also the big problem about all outliers. Now, if you have a data set and there's some funky outlier, is that an aberration, meaning something different you can ignore? Or is it that very important, when you're driving a car, an autonomous car is spotting some unusual happening that it really needs to pay attention to, right? That's one of the biggest pitfalls of AI. I think I'm about out of time, so you can probably skip towards the end and we can just more talk about, I think the conference will, that would you prefer, right? Hello? Is that also already? So if you just skip, go through the slides towards the end, just take one at a time.
This one or the eight?
Just go towards the end.
Oh, to the end.
Yes. Yes, so there it is. And the next one. And like I say, we have lots of interesting positions coming up. Have to look under when they're announced or contact me. Next. And the most important thing is to have fun with your research. Thank you. Next slide, and that's my email. Oh, one more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. It's a really amazing lecture. Thank you. This.
No, you can exit.
There is an extra slide. Sorry.
Yeah. Just exit. Just exit.
Just exit. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, not at all. Really, thank you. Thank you for being with us today. It's a very amazing lecture. I guess you summarized a long journey of high performance computing from the single CPU until the latest parallelism or parallel techniques. Yeah, I really understand it's a very big journey, but you summarize it in just 30 or 40 minutes. So it's a wonderful lecture, and you give our students a lot of information. Thank you very much. So let's think about having some questions.
Yes, we have some questions, Dr. Islam.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Ann, when we talk about locality and dependency on cache and registers, I think we have a challenge related to the power consumption. So how do supercomputers overcome this issue?
So supercomputers just are terrible, right? They consume a huge amount of power. But what we found a few years ago with one of my students is because if you optimize for data locality, you're actually also optimizing for power consumption, because sending data across, whether it's from disk or from your RAM or from into your various levels of hierarchies, that is actually very power consuming. So if you can limit that, that's very good. Now, of course, there is a big trade-off if people start doing like when you can imagine have domain decomposition and you're trying to doing border exchanges. You probably have seen this in the basic parallel computing. And if you try to grow your border, and so you can do more iterations before you start sending, you are sending bigger chunks. But then if you start to overlap and do extra computations, and not this, so you're redoing the computation on several parallel computers, that of course has a negative effect. But by and large, if you're programming for performance, you're also programming for energy efficiency. And of course, this is the number one reasons why these big supercomputing centers started using GPUs, because GPUs are very power efficient. And so there's more power efficiency, less power to be used when you have these special processors designed for, gaming cards and now also, GPUs for mobile. You also see how ARM, which was an embedded company, is, breaking into the supercomputing area with the supercomputer in Japan, again, with a very big goal of lowering the power.
Okay, thank you.
So I can see Hisham al-Sha'ir has a question.
Okay.
Would you please, Hisham, ask your question? You can unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Are you there?
Okay, hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Ask
Hi.
Hisham.
Hello. Nowadays, I'm exposed to Apple's SoCs. They are so efficient and they are so powerful. I know it's a different kind of processing chips, but I think they are making a lot of progress in terms of performance and power efficiency.
You mean the M1 chip?
Especially
The M1 chip that I'm using
yes,
on my
yes,
Mac
yes.
Air here
Yes.
today. So yeah, in fact, we have, there's lots of other chip companies out there. Of course, the big players, like you say, are Apple and M1 chip. It will be interesting to see how that maybe also moves, just like the Intel chips moved into the HPC area. And also as the GPU moved in. And like I say, there's the TPU from Google. There's, a lot of, even quantum computing, right, for special purpose is coming along, for at least in the small scale. In a big scale for quantum, I think is still about 10 years out, right? So we're probably still going to be programming similar style with for now. But you're right, it will be interesting to see how the M1 chip, I'm sure it'll migrate.
Okay, so
to others.
Okay, Hassan, we hear you.
Trying to hear what he said, sorry.
No, yes, we couldn't hear.
Anyway, he's right. So M1, I think the first place you'll see it is to see M1 style chips on the edge computers. And then they will be used, to reduce data and do pre-computes for sensors. And I think that's very applicable to this conference.
Okay, so
okay, Hassan,
do you think chips like M1 could contribute in anyhow to HPC or it's not related at all?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you could already in HPC, when you're gathering data from the edge of sensors, you'll probably see it there. And it could also develop to, be used. I mean, I don't, just like the Intel chip is now used in many forms and everywhere from the older chips and embedded to the modern, big processors. You'll probably see another growth. I mean, the M1 is, based on the ARM architecture and has a lot of that. And then you see the ARM architecture already in the supercomputer over at in Japan, right? So it's already influencing in that sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that make sense? I don't know.
No, that's so clear now. Thank you. So may I have ask you a question? It could be the last question because we only have 3 minutes.
Sorry, my
No.
slow start.
What do you think about the role of AI in the future of the edge computing or fog computing? How it could affect the upcoming?
So already you're seeing AI on some edges, right? You know, you're seeing AI developed, you know, obviously in autonomous cars, and some, you know, really grand view that a car is an edge also, right? I mean, a big edge, but
computer in wheels, they we can.
So it's computer on wheels, right? And so obviously AI is playing a big role as for image sensing, and you know, just being able to, you know, look, for now, even Tesla's alerted drivers. You know, most of the high-end cars are now using some kind of AI to help, you know, recognize, you know, different things. And, you know, like I say, the biggest thing you'll see on the edge is data pruning and trying to use some kind of, build some models. You have to build some models once you have, because, you know, you get so much sensor data, right? There's so many that are out there now, for good or worse. Maybe we full field, you know, but, you know, there's, you know, useful stuff for, you know, earth monitoring, you know, trying to prevent, you know, tsunami, or at least forecast some tsunamis, mudslides. And as the climate is getting more extreme, you know, these are in sandstorms, you know, sensors out there can, you know, do early detection and help people. And then, of course, if they're sending, you know, you're not going to be sending terabytes over Wi-Fi, right? I mean, it's just, or even over 4G or 5G, you know, you still have to limit the amount of data you send, right, from these edge devices. And if you could do some processing willfully, that would be extremely useful, obviously, and it's already starting.
We hope. Sorry for the. Now we have only 1 minute to start our next session. I still have other questions, but I couldn't. So we can send you the questions, and hopefully we can receive your answers and give them back.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. We are honored. We are very honored to have you today in our conference. It has been a very insightful lecture. The question about the AGI, the artificial general intelligence, raises a lot of concerns not to run into a matrix-like world in the future. So we have to think about the ethics and the rules and ways of dealing with this monster of scientific research. We are very honored. We are very thrilled to have you. Next year we hope to be in Cairo physically. Thank you very much. And for all the attendees, we will switch to technical sessions. We have 3 parallel technical sessions, so we have 3 different links. We can go to the sessions based on the topics of the papers. Thank you very much, and hope for a successful day. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, attendees. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.